I'm with Bob Brocklebank, who is running in Capital Ward in the upcoming elections next month. Bob, I know that in retirement that you've followed municipal politics very closely and that you've been a president of the Glebe Association. But what made you decide to run for council?
Well, you're right. I've been very much involved, not just in the Glebe, but I was also president of the citywide network of community associations for 3 years. So I've been very much involved in city issues. And I guess the thing that really drove me to plunk down my $100 and sign on as a candidate was that I was approached by a number of young people who were encouraging me, pushing me more or less to run. Mm-hmm. And when I say young people, I don't mean infants. I mean people who are just young enough to maybe have been my children. And people in their late 20s, early 30s who were saying, well, we'd like you to step forward and run. And they were persuasive enough that I actually said yes.
They probably were caught up in a theme that I see often, increasingly as the election approaches, which is that there should be new blood in city council, that the incumbents tend to have been there for some time and have become perhaps overly focused just on some issues on their board.
Yeah.
It's something I see.
Yes, you're right. There has been a tendency for people to be very ward focused, to think in terms of what can I get from my ward, and perhaps neglecting things that are citywide issues that are more important. In the case of Capital Ward, we had a pretty good idea that the sitting councillor, Clive Doucette, would not run again. The big surprise to us was when he suddenly announced, oh, I'm not running as councillor, but then he finished his speech by saying, but I'm going down to run as mayor. And that was quite a surprise to many of us. And we'll see how that decision works out for him. So in Capital Ward, there are 5 of us who are running, and the incumbent is not running. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Bob, I know you've had a varied background, but I mean, what does Bob Brocklebank bring to the job if you were elected?
Well, I think I do have a number of unique attributes. One of them, obviously, is the time that I have spent in my own community being concerned about community issues. It means that I've appeared before council many, many times. Unfortunately, I guess I'm a known party in terms of the incumbents. They seem to know me, and the mayor knows me because I've appeared so many times before council committees. I've also appeared before the Ontario Municipal Board and the Committee of Adjustment and all these other bodies which deal with municipal issues. So I have quite a lot of background in terms of issues, something that should be a positive feature. Mm-hmm. Another aspect, I guess, is that because I was the president of the Citywide Federation of Community Associations, I have a certain degree of understanding about areas outside my own ward that other people may not have. In particular, I'm probably the only candidate running in the election in the urban area who attended both of the rural summits organized by the city, for example. Mm-hmm. I went to the rural summits. Why? Well, because we have rural members in the FCA network, and I wanted to understand their problems. So I have perhaps more knowledge about rural issues and some of the suburban issues than perhaps some of the other candidates who are focused very much on their own ward, their own mm-hmm. neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I certainly have that impression, Bob, that in the job that you would have a broader view of issues than tends to be the case usually. There's what do you see as being some of the most important issues that that are coming up in this campaign?
Well, so far, today we're in the first half of September, so we're still in the early days of the campaign. The mayoralty candidates have spoken about taxes, and of course taxes are always an issue. I'd like to move it beyond taxes. I'd like to talk about financial responsibility as being more of an issue. And I'm not really convinced that many of the discussions that we've had around the council table have indicated much in the way of financial responsibility. There seems to be a tendency for council to be stampeded into a course of action without a lot of analysis and without asking some of the difficult and searching questions that should be asked. Now, I see that council as being a little like the board of directors of a big corporation. The board of directors would not be involved in many of the day-to-day issues about running the corporation, but they should be asking searching questions about where is the corporation going, why is it getting the kind of results it's getting, that kind of thing. And a lot of the discussion around the council table, actually it's a big round horseshoe thing, a lot of the discussion does not touch on that. There are a lot of probing questions that I think a member of a board of directors would ask about a comparable corporation. And we're talking about a big corporation. You know, the city of Ottawa spends something like $2.3 billion a year. We used to both be in foreign affairs. At one time, I was responsible for the salary budget. There are more employees of the city of Ottawa than there are in the Department of Foreign Affairs and International Trade. And that's including all the night watchmen that we have in India and everything. So we're talking about a big organization.
Yeah.
As big as a pretty good-sized federal government department.
Give me an issue, Bob, that where this comes up, where council would have been dealing with an issue, but not really carrying that forward the way you'd like to see them doing it.
Well, maybe I could cite two examples. There was an interesting discussion yesterday at council. At that time, suddenly the city realized, oh, there's federal stimulus money and we ought to do what we can to spend the federal stimulus money. And so council went ahead and took on obligations of $6 million of city money without much consideration of, well, did we really want to spend $6 million? We just spend that money in order to scoop money that came from the federal and provincial governments. I mean, that didn't strike me as being particularly, a wise approach. We had the famous bus purchase. Remember when we bought 200 buses all of a sudden? And it was sort of, it struck me as a little like those phone calls you get. You know, those people who phone and they say, I'm paving driveways in your neighborhood, and if you sign on today, I'll come around and give you a special paving in your driveway. And you say, well, no, I'd like to really look at this more carefully. We rushed into buying all those buses. There wasn't a lot of financial analysis engaged in. There certainly was not a lot of financial analysis associated with the public-private partnership for Lansdowne Park, one that I became very much involved in. And I still wonder how we ended up in the arrangement that seems to be moving ahead on Lansdowne.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good to hear that. There have been some steps. I mean, we have now in City Hall a sort of an auditor general person who I think that's a step forward, but I would think it could go a lot further, and I think having a counselor that's with your background and coming to the job with a much more of a nonpartisan sort of an approach. You're not. You've said that you're not soliciting funds from unions or corporations, and I think that should be a very admirable, fresh breath of air for council.
Not necessarily youth. I'm not saying I'm bringing youth. I can't promise that. But yeah, you're right. I am not a member of a political party. Haven't been a member of a political party for, I don't know, 45 or whatever it is years. And so I don't have a political machine behind me. I'm not seeking or accepting donations from corporations or trade unions. It's really individuals. Those are the people who vote. Mm-hmm. Now, I was involved in an interesting discussion yesterday about, sort of associated with that. It is true that the people who vote are individuals. But the city is made up of more than individuals, it is true. And the interesting conversation I had yesterday was, a politician, and I guess I'm a politician now, goes door to door, right? He goes from residence to residence. And in the ward I'm trying to represent, they're not just residences, there are all these businesses. But the politician never goes door to door in the businesses unless he's asking for money. And yet, understanding those businesses is, I think, an important thing which many of our politicians haven't spent a lot of time doing. Mm-hmm. I think it'd be really interesting. I mean, I expect we're going to have a group of freshman counselors after October 25th. I think it'd be really interesting to organize an industrial tour. Sure. Like we used to go on as trade commissioners, where the freshman counselors sort of went to some of the businesses around Ottawa to understand what the economic basis of Ottawa is. Yeah. It's not something that you get in going door to door, because you're seeing the people as residents, not as people involved in the economy. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's a great idea. Bob, I've been happy to support your campaign with a small contribution. If people want to put their support behind your campaign, what should they do? Well, always looking for assistance, looking for volunteers, looking for people to contribute, looking for people to put up a sign on their front lawn, for example. I would invite people to just go to my website, which is very complicated, www.brocklebank.ca, and there's all kinds of instructions there, and we're looking for support. Obviously, support from people in Capital Ward, because the best support they can provide is to go to the polls and vote. But looking for support from everywhere. Good. Well, I hope people watching this video will go to brocklebank.ca. That's right. Good. Thanks, Bob. Okay.